is 6 o'clock, and I'd like to call the Long Lake Township Board to order. Shall we stand for the pledge, please? Yes. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Rosa,
Here.
Wagner,
Here.
Shaw,
Here.
Amy is absent and excused. Hoffman is here. Litterson,
Here.
Garber.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Item 3 is public comment. Yes, Peter?
Couple of items. One kind of questions, really. I see you have this new ordinance, that you're calling, enforcement officer and ordinance for enforcement officer. Would that include the fireworks ordinance?
Yes.
It would?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the question I wanted to be able to
Yes.
answer. Tell the board that.
And on that particular one, we have also, we made a minor change. We added the Parks and Maintenance Supervisor to be an enforcement officer as well as the zoning administrator and the supervisor. So we just added.
It's
one more
new
person.
since the packet was put out?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
going to be under two?
Supervisor, zoning administrator, and Parks and Maintenance Superintendent.
That would be two under both 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
so administrator and Parks and
Parks and Maintenance Superintendent.
I think it's a good idea. And then the other question I had is just sort of a general question. I've gone through the proposed ordinance number 137, the amending the zoning ordinance. Is this just a housekeeping sort of thing, is what this is?
Basically, I mean, there's some changes, and we'll go through those step by step
Okay, you are going to do that?
when.
You talk about it?
Yeah, did you have anything specific?
No, I went through it, and I see there's some, like for instance, the height of the building. I mean, I
Yes.
couldn't remember whether that was what the height was
I
before.
think you'll have an explanation when we. go
Okay,
through
good,
that.
okay. Having said that, and that's the only comments I had, and thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thanks. Any other public comment? Not, we will move on to the consent calendar. There is one report to add, and that's the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Department that was left off on our list, so that is in your packet and that should be added.
Could I have one item removed? I guess we could deal with it then, or
Mhm.
your second comment, I guess, but the Grand Traverse County Road Commission report.
Okay? You want that removed for discussion?
Yes, please.
Okay. We will do that, and we could, let's see, where will we put that? Is it something that we need to act on, or is it,
No.
should I put it under reports?
No, I have a question about something that would fall under the Road Commission's jurisdiction that's not on the report.
Oh, okay,
So,
all right.
you know, we could do it there, like I said, we could do it under some other area. I really just
You
have
do
a
it
question,
under
but
special report.
Let's do it under special
Okay.
reports. Well, I will add item D and remove the Grand Traverse County Road Commission report and discuss that at that time. Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else? I don't know if you need to list those down, Carol, of what's included in the consent calendar.
I can. Township Board minutes of July 8th, regular meeting, July 15th, special meeting. Treasurer's report dated June 30th. Zoning Department report, Grand Traverse Fire report, planners report, and correspondence. Is there anything else in addition to Dan's request for further discussion?
Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the removal of the Grand Traverse County Road Commission report?
Madam Chairman, also move.
Leonardson,
I'll support.
Schaub. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yeah. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Item 5 is approval or amendment to the agenda. I have nothing to change on the agenda this evening. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Garvin and Lenerson. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there anything on the agenda that would be a conflict of interest by any of the board members? Hearing none, we will move on to a second public comment. Anyone else like to speak at this time?
Just only comment, I think your agenda really has been amended because you're moving something from your consent calendar to your special
you're
report,
right.
so there is a minor amendment to the agenda.
You're right. Is there a motion, does your motion cover that
Yes.
change of the
Yes, my motion covers that change.
consent calendar?
Yes.
Everyone agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one other thing is the July 15th minutes, at least in the packet that I got, I didn't see them in there. I have the July 8th meeting.
Okay, it was, the board members have it.
I received it.
So we do have it in ours. You maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason didn't get it. If you need a copy, we can get you one.
Yeah, I'd like to get that soon, see what you did. You know, I wasn't at that meeting, so.
We talked about you pretty much the entire.
I bet you did, and I probably deserved every minute.
I actually wasn't even at that meeting.
Okay, we will move on to special reports. Trustee report, John Lenerson.
Yes. Well, you may remember a couple of, or 3 meetings ago, the clerk brought up to the board about the problem with the yellow sedum in the cemetery. And also she pointed out the trustees, under the statute of what they're supposed to be taking care of, is noxious weeds. So as a senior trustee, I decided to look into this, and I have a whole file here on sedum. But I'm not gonna bore you with that whole thing, although it was very interesting. I condensed it down to just one little page here. First of all, the definition of a weed. The definition of a weed is really anything that's growing where you don't want it to grow. Whether it's a good, nice plant or not, if it's not where you want it, it's considered a weed. But of course, we have, you know, our regular weeds that we have in our gardens and yards and so forth, like pigweed, redwood, Russian thistle. You've seen that pretty purple thing out in fields. You see fields of it. That came over when we bought a bunch of wheat from Russia. We also got their weeds. And you see a lot of that. It goes like crazy. But as we got into sedum, there's 600 species of sedum, by the way. And it's considered a stone crop because it will grow in practically stony soil. It'll grow anywhere, sand, stone, and it's very drought resistant. But on the other hand, there's some species of sedum that they make medicine for epilepsy and also skin diseases. Another thing I found out that the Ford truck plant in Dearborn, Michigan has 10.4 acres of living roof. This is a green roof and sedum grows on that roof, believe it or not. Let along with that, the Rolls-Royce motor plant in Greenville, England has 242,000 square foot green roof. And in our own NMC, where you can go up and take courses, this is, I suppose you can get credits, but I don't think it doesn't say in here, where you can take everything from cake decorating to green roofs. This is something new. So I never realized there was so much to do with that. And there are some species of sedum you can eat that they put in salads, and maybe they cook it other ways. So maybe down along Lake Rushy, we will soon see sedum. For sale. For sale.
Sandwiches or something.
Yeah. But the kind that we have in our cemetery, we have a little of the red left and we have the yellow sedum. Well, there's various ways you can get rid of this. Now, you could get down on your hands and knees and kind of pull it out, but that kind of sedum gives off a gas. And if you have allergies or asthma, you could be in bad shape. You could end up in the hospital because this stuff will mess you up. So they say another way to get rid of it is use a square point shovel, and I never understood that square point. The only points are gonna be on the corners because it's square in the front. And you can kind of skim the ground and kind of take it out and put it in bags. But the long and the short of the whole thing, if we just spray it with 2,4-D, that should kill it. And I would recommend that we have a professional company come in and do this and be done with it. I know you're getting complaints, and then,
How do you spray the sedum and not get it on their bushes and plants?
well, you can't have everything perfect, and not even the ones that are below the ground are perfect, so what can I say? I guess you'd have to pick calm days, and those people are professional, and they come in and be cautious. Maybe they wrap some of those with protective things, and, you know,
We did do that at one time.
We sprayed hard.
Part of it,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
at one time.
And it wiped out everything, but then it was in an area, it was sort of a trial area, but then when it rains, then that area just washes until you can get something else established. And we don't have an irrigation system there, so that makes it difficult to get something really going again to keep things from moving. So it's I didn't realize that if you picked it out, it's got those little hairy tentacles
Yeah.
and they break off easily, but I didn't ever hear the part about the gases it releases.
Yeah. Now, that's not in all sedum.
Mm-hmm.
There's 600 varieties of stuff, but in the yellow, it did say that it gives off
That's mostly what
a
we
gas
have,
like
golden.
if you've
Yeah,
got
it's that
allergies or
yellow.
asthma, you could be in trouble.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
Well, I appreciate the
you're welcome.
extensive report on sedum.
I'm very knowledgeable now.
And that is one of your duties, not just, you said you
Thanks,
trustees.
Jennifer.
Gentlemen,
Covered
feel at ease, I've come to
Yes.
Well, Carol can take that information and
Yeah,
do whatever we need to do
but
with it.
I would think if there was a company that was going to do this, you could have them, might cost a little more, but have them wrap
Worse
any
spots.
bushes or, so that, and do it on a calm day, so it stays on the ground.
And you did say 2,4-D, right?
Yep, that's what they said. That's the best.
Would that kill everything though, John?
Yeah.
Well, apparently sedum is a broadleaf plant. 2,4-D only kills broadleaf. It won't kill grass. That I know of.
We'll take that information under advisement.
Okay,
Thank you, sir, very
You're
much.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
all right.
Commissioner Wheelock is not here, and I have a written report from Captain John Brown for the July activities in Long Lake Township. We had 27 runs, 23 were medical, 4 were fire, and 0 PIAs. So it was a busy month, but I think they handled it well.
Yes.
Okay, Grand Traverse County Road Commission report.
Can I just say one thing about, before we leave the Station 10 fire report, I just wanted to report, the board has this information, but for those of you in the audience, that we, Long Lake Township, had a millage proposal for emergency services on this past August primary, and it passed by 79%. That was a good showing of support.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure was. Yeah.
Very, very good. I'm very pleased with that. Okay, Dan.
I just was curious to find out, I'm sure there's been some discussion about the undermining, I guess, of North Long Lake Road, near the stone wall there. I I saw some orange barrels appear.
They've been there quite a while.
Well,
too.
I actually just assumed that that was just a property owner maybe trying to slow down traffic there, and I've now been approached by 2 different property owners that live in that exact area, asking what's happening and
Mhm.
what, if anything, the road commission plans to do, because apparently it's continuing to get worse with the lake levels high. It's kind of eating away at that. The
Sure.
concern is that it actually might get to a point where we might actually start losing part of the road surface.
Right.
And they know that they've allocated more money than they really have as a result of the millage. And I know that the road commission is extremely busy with a very aggressive schedule in summer.
But
I'm
this could
just
almost be an emergency
curious to
situation,
know
yeah.
what if anything is happening.
I have had, I don't have any information on that, but I will find out and make sure that somebody gets on that. I wonder if they've kind of forgotten or what, but those barrels have been there for a while.
Well, I see there's a couple, not recently, but it started with 2 and I think it was 4. And
Yep. I will find out.
so,
Yeah, Mark is not here this evening, otherwise we could ask him, but. yeah,
That's all I
appreciate-
have.
Sure, appreciate the comment and the concern about that. We have no pending business, so we will get right on to our new business, and Leslie Sifferman is here that can walk us through the zoning ordinance amendments. The first one we have is ZOA 0614-01, a request to rezone part of parcel 2808-008-010-00, low density to conservation recreation. I did provide you, or she did, a map of where exactly this location is off of Cedar Lake Road. It's the south 20 acres of a 39-acre parcel. So she can fill us in about that one.
This was a request by the property owner to rezone, and the stated reason, although it's not required, was because the owner wanted to keep horses and potentially stable horses, and far in the future potentially have an arena or something. All those uses are actually allowed under the current zoning. There are fewer restrictions and easier approval under the proposed zoning. And I think this is a long-term investment commitment to the property and nothing immediate. There's no house there yet. There's no house permit pulled. I think the person who's going to be moving there has horses and wants to keep them and has lofty plans for the future. They'll be subject to the Right to Farm Act, general management practices relative to keeping horses. Some of the neighboring property owners asked about, because they knew that there were horses involved, were somewhat concerned about noises and smells and things like that and groundwater contamination, but overall they were happy to see the property not developed as an extension of the subdivision to the east, for good or bad. And the Planning Commission recommended approval in that it was consistent with the master plan designation for this property and the entire area, although a lot of the area around this immediately surrounding is also low-density residential. If you pan out a little further, the larger area, there's quite a bit of conservation recreation, and if you go to the area, it really seems to fit, and it's close to our natural area and the state property, and it was also recommended for approval by the County Planning Commission.
Are there questions for Leslie regarding this change?
Leslie, you did say that there'd be some built in about maybe horses using the park down there or the natural area. Build in some safety nets.
That has been a concern. Again, they never said that that was their plan. It's close by, but not that close. But we took a closer look at the rules for the park and our other parks, talked to the Conservancy, the Land Conservancy, about the grant that helped to pay for that property to see if we could restrict keeping horses there. And not only could we restrict that, they recommend that we do because of the damage at some park properties due to horses. So you may want to consider in the near future looking at all of those rules in your parks.
That was one of the things we hadn't thought about when we did the parks, the natural areas rules, so we will take a look. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve, I guess, ordinance 136, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ZOA number 06-14-01. Ordinance to omit the zoning map.
I'll support that.
Okay, Garvin made the motion, supported by Lennerson. Any further discussion? This will need a roll call.
Wagner,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Lennerson,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes,
Schott,
Yes.
Aukenfeld, yes.
motion is carried. Okay, we will move on to ZOA 06-14-02. There are several changes. It is ordinance number 137. We will take these one by one with an explanation and question, but it will be approved under one motion for ordinance number 137. So, first one is change allowable size and setbacks for signs in the general business district.
So this is our zoning area around M72 for the more intensive uses allowed in that area. This came about in part from a sign company that has dealt with lots of variances for signs and is familiar with other ordinances, even in cases where he didn't help a client get a variance. He knew that our setbacks and size for signs are a little inconsistent with some other ordinances and potentially even a little dangerous because currently the setbacks for a monument or ground sign for these businesses is 50 feet off of the road right-of-way, and the road edge is often quite a distance from the edge of the road right-of-way along M72 because it goes in and out quite a bit. The proposals to change it from 50 feet to 10 feet or the height of the sign up to 12 feet is allowed. So if it were a 12-foot tall sign, it would be set back 12 feet. And also, along with that, to increase the size of a wall-mounted sign for these businesses from 16 square feet up to 45 square feet.
And that would be on the building.
And that would be on the building. And it couldn't be more than 10%. If it's a very small building front, not more than 10% of that side of the building. So there would be cases where it would be restricted and be smaller, but in no case could it be more than 45 square feet. And then we have provisions for not multi-tenant, but multi-business uses. And there's a slightly different formula for multi-business uses.
I know this has been discussed a lot and has been an issue.
Yes,
so many different times.
We consulted, there's a manual recently produced dealing with signs and highway signs and speed limits and safe distances, and there's a lot of science or pretend science behind traffic safety and the ability of people to read signs. And also in that area, there's a lot of concern about especially deliveries coming and not being able to find a business and holding up traffic or having to pass by and find a way of turning around and coming back. And sometimes they're big semi-trucks, and it's not that easy. So there definitely are safety issues involved here.
Any questions regarding this particular one? We will move on to number 2, which is increase allowable height / minor accessory building.
This one's kind of easy. I know that some of you are well aware that our minor accessory buildings are limited not only to 100 square feet in area, but also a total of 8 feet in height all the way to the peak of the building. And most pre-made buildings don't meet that standard, the 8-foot height standard particularly. So the proposal is to increase it to overall height of 10 feet. Now these are the buildings that don't require either a land use permit or a building permit. There are setback restrictions that apply, but there were so few that could ever meet that standard, and it would, in most cases, be a shed. And this would allow more people to use pre-made buildings.
Any questions regarding that, number 2? Okay, number 3, remove definitions of terms not used in the zoning ordinance.
These are mostly terms, very specific terms that were related to the prior conservation, recreation, or cluster development options. Our new cluster development options don't use those terms. They're not used elsewhere in the ordinance, and they were very specific to those situations, and they were terms like adjusted parcel acreage, primary conservation area, things like that that we don't use and may confuse people. So.
Any questions regarding number 3? Number 4, clarify definition of lot area.
At some point, there's a little bit of an inconsistency in the ordinance. It's always been the practice to, whenever it's required for land division consideration or other development considerations, that lot area always meant the net lot area net of any road rights of way, private or public roads or easements. And even though we always do it that way, technically the ordinance didn't say that, so that's just kind of a little cleanup to make it clear that when we say lot area, we're referring to net lot area, not gross.
Okay. Any questions on number 4? Number 5, clarify current policy relative to further lot division on existing private roads and access easements. This one's a little more complicated.
It is. This one really covers a lot of things that are already a combination of policy, practice, and references in other ordinances like the land division ordinance. So it's an attempt to not change anything, but define everything and put down on paper so everyone knows what kinds of different road situations we have in this township and how they're treated when it comes to road improvements and land divisions. And there are 5 different categories. One is a public road, and that's one maintained by the Road Commission or MDOT. Those are easy. One is a private road, and those are the ones that have been approved under our private road ordinance adopted in 2000 and meets those standards. Another one is, let me make sure I get this right, a pre-existing private road. Those are ones that predated, they were private roads that existed before 2000 when that private road ordinance was adopted. There's a list of them that accompany that private road ordinance. Those have kind of special status. They're considered a private road. Additional divisions can occur along those roads, but they don't, there's no situation where in order to get another division, you'd have to bring the road up to a new standard or a higher standard. It could be a 2-track as long as they have the minimum frontage along that easement. There can be an addition, and they meet all other zoning restrictions. They could do an additional division. Under our new private road ordinance, once everything falls into place, any extensions of a road like that would have to meet our new standards, but not the original road. Then there are pre-existing private access easements. So of that list of all of the pre-existing private roads, the assessor went through the whole township and made a list of all of those roads. Some of them were unnamed. Some of them had names and were clearly private roads. But she had this whole road at that time. That was it. Those were the pre-existing private roads. But of course, there were a few other private shared driveways that didn't make it onto the list for probably good reasons in all those cases. We don't allow further divisions on those. So we really felt like we needed to define those and just say it's everything that's not listed on that list and that predated. There's a few funny ones out there. There's no way of coming up with a new list of those. Some of them would require a lot of research and title work, and so it's the leftovers. If you're not on that list and you predated, we're not going to allow additional divisions along those unless the road is brought up to current private road standards. Then there are 2 more situations. Currently, if someone does a division on a public or private road and has all their required road frontage, lot width and everything, get approval from the road commissioner MDOT for 2 separate driveways, but for other reasons decide to share a driveway at the center of the shared property line, we allow people to do that. So that's a shared driveway. It's not official road frontage. It's not a private easement. It can't be extended into a private road. It's really just a shared driveway that's in an easement usually. Then there's only one other category. For developments approved by the Planning Commission, all of them are development options like a planned unit development or a cluster development or agricultural cluster development option, I forgot what it's called. We allow people to, where it makes sense in order to use the land and have the open space set aside that the ordinance requires, we allow up to 2 residential lots to be served only, to front only on a shared private access. There's no frontage on a public or private road. There's just this 20-foot access easement that's, I would always otherwise have called a shared driveway, but we've already used that term. So it's called a private access easement.
For no more than 2.
For no more than 2.
And that would, no matter what the size of the property is, correct?
They have to meet the minimum requirements and be approved by the Planning Commission. And there's a little, those developments are always part of a bigger, I mean, those kinds of situations are always part of a bigger development reviewed by the Planning Commission and looked at as a whole. And I can't think of any circumstances where it wouldn't be organized under a site condominium with a master deed that provides for the maintenance and designates who has rights to use that, and a little bit more assurances about how that access easement would be used. And it allows for arguably better
use of land, more flexibility to use the land and do the set asides that we require of developers.
Any questions on that particular one? It's a little complicated, but it's hard to believe we have that many different road things, but that's the way it is, I guess.
I've never seen another zoning ordinance address all of those, but they're so, and I'm sure they exist everywhere, but, you know, we like to be careful and make sure we're being consistent and that it's documented. So there's no change here proposed, it's just documenting what we do and putting it all in one place and setting up the rules for them
So
in
there's
one
absolutely
place.
no question, you can go to this document
Hopefully.
and look at it and read it and say, this is what it is. I certainly understand that. Item 6 is clarify definition of yard and related terms.
This one is easier. There came a question recently about, is there any kind of way we could maybe give someone a little bit of a benefit of the doubt and measure a setback from maybe different points from a building to a property line? And this whole argument that came up about maybe we could do that was all hinged on the word perpendicular, believe it or not, that was included in all of our yard definitions. It's a long circular argument, which I don't think held a lot of water, but in the end it was decided that all the definitions work if you just take that word perpendicular out, and anyone who had a problem with it, it was never intended to be, and it certainly isn't included in the definition of setback, which really applies when we're measuring setbacks. But while we were at it, we decided to take out the word perpendicular.
Any questions on number 6? That completes the
Oh,
changes in.
there's one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss?
Pre-existing non-conforming uses.
Oh, yes. Yes, sorry.
So, this one also requires a little explanation. We have several commercial uses in the township that are not zoned commercial and predated any zoning in the township. Predated 1978, I think is when 1979, when we first created zoning. Those uses have always been a little hard to deal with. They're by and large uses, and it's a short list, and they all happen to be zoned low-density residential. And in most cases, the township and all of the residents would like to see those uses have legal status and be allowed within reason to expand and be improved and, you know, be recognized under zoning and not be shunned by our zoning ordinance. And but because they're not allowed, commercial uses are not allowed in the low-density residential district, any expansion of those uses technically was a violation not only of our zoning ordinance but also of state law, because if we grant a variance to allow an expansion of a non-conforming use, by default that is a use variance and not permitted.
Is it use what, I'm sorry?
A use variance
Oh.
constituted a use variance. And under state law, use variances aren't allowed unless before a prior date we said we would allow all use variances. And our zoning ordinance says we don't allow use variances. So, you know, in some cases we had allowed some minor expansions, but they really weren't, they were a little shaky. And we did what we thought we needed to do at the time in order to give the proper variances to make it happen. And depending on what attorney you talk to, I think most would say that is a use variance. Luckily, there's a way to fix the problem and allow those uses, give them a different status in our zoning and allow them to expand. And this is the fix to do that. This defines all of those pre-existing non-conforming uses as anything that existed and can be documented that existed prior to 1979 in continuous use, And these uses would be allowed to expand under a conditional use permit with several restrictions, and they're included on the last page of, I'm looking at something different. Not on the last page. Second to last page. So these, number 1 through 7 under section 19.51 are all of the restrictions that would apply when one of these uses was proposed to be expanded. And they're things like they have to be a minimum of 1 acre net lot area. It could not expand to more than 15,000 square feet. There has to be documentation that it did exist continuously since 1979. Any outdoor merchandise display can't be more than 4 feet outside of the perimeter of the building, and any other outdoor storage or storage of materials would not be permitted. It's restricted to certain kinds of uses, including general retail, convenience commercial, restaurant without drive-through, motor vehicle fuel service without repair. This specifically does not include any pre-existing major home occupations. We have people that would maybe meet this if that have had a long-standing major home occupation, but if they meet the definition of a major home occupation because they live there too, this this special circumstance doesn't apply to them. So this has been reviewed by our attorney, and this does, I feel, give all of those uses a little bit more of a comfort zone in knowing that our zoning ordinance doesn't just say you're completely, not legal. Good luck, thanks for being here, you can't do anything with the building. This gives it a little bit of a higher, better status, potentially looked at more favorably by mortgage companies and title companies, and allows for some reasonable expansions.
Were there any comments from county planning on all of these changes?
No, they had one tiny little thing, and we did address that. It was our definition of lot area. We said the net lot area, or lot area, which is net lot area, doesn't include road rights of ways, public and private road rights of ways, and they said, don't you want to also include excess easements? And I polled everyone, and we all agreed, yes. So we made that change.
Okay.
That was their only comment.
Any comments on number 7, or any of them as we've gone through them?
If the owner of the business wanted to, he could purchase property around him and then apply to have that changed to commercial, is that correct? If he wants to expand his business?
If they didn't have the 1 acre,
Yes.
yeah, I think they could do that.
I'd like to commend Leslie for the thoroughness of her explanation.
Yes.
And I'd like to commend the board for receiving that explanation, because for the audience sitting here, it's so much easier if we know what's going on. Yeah, so just kudos.
Did a good job because I was at the planning commission in some of these meetings and kind of rolling roll for some of the side
So-
ones.
These are a lot of changes.
Now you know what we do.
Yeah, I know.
We're not going to have time for this stuff anymore coming up. We've got lots of applications now.
Yeah.
Good. Those are moving. Okay,
You need a motion.
I sure do.
Madam Chairman, I would move to accept ZOA 06-14-02, ordinance 137.
Get support.
Okay, that's Leonardson and Schraub. Further discussion? Any other questions at this time? Roll call, please.
Schott,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes.
Okay, motion is carried.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Lots of hard work. Appreciate it. Okay, item C is a resolution regarding to appoint a township ordinance enforcement officer and to designate an individual to enforce the township police power ordinances. We have had a resolution prior, but in that prior resolution, it named by name myself and the zoning administrator. So we have changed that to just say supervisor, zoning administrator, and then we have also added our parks and maintenance superintendent. So whenever, whoever changes in that position like this, we won't have to go back and redo it. That's the only change that has been made. Any questions?
Actually, how much power and authority do these people have?
They can write a municipal civil infraction if they need to.
So we'll go to the parks and Jim finds some problems.
He can. We certainly will do warnings and we'll do the,
Warnings, yeah.
yes, but he can,
This is good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution number 08-14/15-2.
Sean, is there support?
Support.
Garvin, any further discussion? Roll call please again.
Rosa,
Yes.
Leonardson,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Wagner,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes, and Shop.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item D is appointment to ZBA. This is a reappointment. Bill Copus's term of office was up, and so when we contacted him, he would like to remain. So I am recommending a reappointment of Bill Copus, and that will be from June 1st of 2014 to June 1st of 2017.
I would make a recommendation, or make a motion to accept the supervisor's recommendation for the reappointment to the zoning board of appeals.
Wagner?
Support.
Garvin supports. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, we are to payment of bills.
The first set of bills is the yellow sheet, the check register report. Is there any question on there that was in your packet? Anything in there that you'd like further information on?
That's the yellow sheet.
Yes. You can see that we got the pickleball court done, and
And this applies for the seniors to be
Yes.
able to play, and it sounds like it's really going pretty well.
Really?
They're really liking it. Mhm.
was striping within one of the tennis courts, so it's different color marking. So that's been completed.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the check register report, check number 32,291 through 32,325, total of $43,279.86.
Garvin?
Support?
Leonardson supports. Further discussion? Roll call please.
Rosa?
Yes.
Leonardson?
Yes.
Garvin?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes. Shop?
Yes.
The second set of bills is the vendor approval summary report, covers checks 32326 through 32358 in the amount of $22,558.17. Is there anything I might try and address for you on there?
Madam Chairman, I would move that we approve the vendor's approval checks 32326 through 3235.8 for $22,558.17.
Leonardson?
Support.
Shop support. Any further questions or discussion? Roll call, please.
Wagner,
Yes.
Garvin,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Rosa,
Yes.
Schott,
Yes.
Hoffman votes yes.
Okay, we are adjourned at 6:50. Thank you for coming, both of you.